Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Orlando Santiago and we are here in New York City and this is my makeup app. So what we're going to talk about in this video is basic contouring and highlighting for cheeks, right? Slash light bronzing. And when I say bronzing, I mean light bronzing, and it's very important because most people still don't know how to really bronze that looks realistic. Usually it's here in the face and it looks very Oompa Loompa-ish, so we're not going to do that today. All right, so let's get started. So what I'm going to do is what I've already done actually with Linay prior in another video was actually the color correction underneath the eye area. I took out the discoloration lightly, I did neutralization, and I put some concealer slash foundation over. So she's already prepped from that video to this video. So if you want to go back and use that as a reference, you sure can. Now, what I'm going to do is, building off this canvas, I'm going to go back and really structure in some contouring because she has an oval face, but her cheekbones is not as high as, you know, as most people's, or some who might have them a lot higher. So what I'm going to do is just use a little bit of depth and dimension, right, to create the illusion of that. And then I'm going to go back at the end and bronze her up. So what I'm going to start off with is, I love this palette. It's a Kat Von D palette. It's a basic contouring palette. And what I like to do first, even though she is a little bit lighter complected, I will go ahead and start with a highlighter. Usually what the highlighter does, it gives me an idea as to where. So in other words, if you highlight first, it'll also kind of tell you exactly where you need to highlight next to it. So, and it's a safer way. Most people will go into a contour, and if it's too dark, you can't do anything about it. You almost have to start all over, remove it, and go back. But if you highlight in certain areas, it'll show you where right next to that, you can actually go in with some contour powder or contouring via foundation. Okay. So I like to highlight the center, right? And I will go back and highlight the bridge of the nose. And as you can see, it already starts to kind of brighten up. Okay? And I'm using the two. I'm using like a yellow and sort of a neutral shade. Okay? And what highlighting does, it actually brings these features forward. Okay? So I'm bringing out the bridge of her nose. I'm bringing out the chin just a bit. And now, most importantly, I'm going to bring out the bone. This is the part where it's very important that you actually pay attention. I really want to bring this part out, so I'm going to tap and blend. So it's like I'm stippling. Okay, makeup goes in layers just like our skin, so the more we apply layers of that product, the more you'll start to see it. However, you have to be patient, especially because it's a highlighter and she's also light complected or fair complected. So you're not going to see it immediately, but you will see it gradually. Okay. Perfect. So as you can see here, because I've highlighted her here, it almost gives me a direct guide as to where I can go back with color and depth right in here. Okay. Just blending. All right. So let's turn, and now let's do the other side. Okay, grabbing both colors. Once again, I'm going in a direct line. So now one of the things that you want to notice when you're actually highlighting is you want to see where is it coming from. So let's pause for a second and take a look at where this comes from. So if I were grabbing two brushes, right, and I were creating angles. Angles are super important because if your angles are not done in a way where it makes sense, you can actually skew the face in a different direction. So for me, it's at the base. Close your lips. And that's at the base of the lips. So at the base of the lips, if you think about a V, so base of the nose will give you, always gives you a guide as to where your angles should be for your ending of your brow bone, right? Or the brow itself, meaning the brow hair, and the corner of the eyeshadow, okay? From the base of the lip back, you'll notice that that kind of gives you a guide as to where your contour should be, right? Just so that it's symmetrical and it's also going in an upward diagonal motion to lift the face. The base of the chin will also give you a guide as to where contouring could be for the jawline. But because we're focusing only on the contouring for the cheek, right here. So the base of the lip, if you have any questions or doubts as to where to put it, you can always go back right here. So okay? So in that motion, it tells me this is my area where I can play, depending on how severe or subtle I want the contouring to be. So as you can see here, so basically we have this part right here is basically just now from another angle, from another light, you can see what she's really highlighted. And I like that because what that does, it enables me to see exactly now where I can go in with contour and really finish it off, okay? So let's do that. So now she's full of highlight, ready to go, nice and bright. And I'm gonna use this same brush, okay? And I'm gonna use the color that's a little bit right below it. So basically, if you have this color, you're gonna go right underneath it. Or, now here's the thing, you also wanna try and use browns or taupes. Anything that is a lot cooler. If you use anything that is a brown that's warmer, it's gonna simulate bronzing. And if you're bronzing, that doesn't necessarily mean depth. I want depth, right? So think of under the tree, it's cooler, so therefore my browns, should be cooler browns, not warmer browns. Warmer browns are bronzing, cooler browns are shadow and depth. Okay, so I'm going to now see, I see my highlighter here, okay? I'm going slightly below it as a guide. And just take your time. Again, it's contouring, so you have to really be careful you don't deposit too much immediately. So what I'm going to gradually start doing is I'm really going to start focusing on the depth here. There you go. I can especially now see the contouring because the highlight is next to it. Remember, they play off of each other, okay? So I could always see contour, but I would see it more because now they are next to each other. The highlight and the contour are playing really important roles next to each other. So as you can see, there you go. You have your highlight, contour, and then her natural complexion right here, okay? So it looks realistic, it feels realistic, and it sets it up later so that when I go back with the bronzer all over the face, it makes sense. Okay, I'm taking the same browns, and now I'm gonna work on the other side. Again, it's going in the same V motion, right? All right, now I could contour in other places, but like I said, she has an oval face, so therefore it's not really necessary. If I were draping or creating another shape based on a more defined face shape, such as a rectangle or kind of oblong or really heart shape or square, then maybe I would have done it in other areas, but for this, she doesn't need it. So I'm just focusing on creating some cheekbones, okay? Perfect, all right, so now what I'm going to do lastly is work with a bronzer. And I'm going to show you how to use a bronzer appropriately. I'm going to use this. This is a neutral color bronzer by Guerlain, which is part of the terracotta family, which is fantastic because they're known for their bronzers. So I'm just taking the same brush. I've been using the same brush for all three places. Okay. And just tap off the excess, right? And take some of it off on your arm so that there's only residue left. And that's really key because you never want to go right on. All right, so I'm going to start. When you, obviously the sun is more than 45 degrees above you, or sometimes directly 90 degrees above you. So all the highest points of your face are going to get sun first. Anything underneath, not so much, right? So you want to focus on the highest points of her entire face. The highest point of her face would be here in the hairline, right? So I'm gonna work in the forehead. And as I move down, everything gets lighter, right? Until I reach another high point. So, highest point of the forehead, great. I'm also gonna see that the bridge of her nose gets a little bit, especially the tip, okay? So that gets just a bit. I could also start to work it into the combination of the highlight and contour that I've created prior. So overlapping both. Looks great. See, I'm bringing a lot of warmth to the skin without creating a really, really orange feel to it. Top of the lips, and obviously the chin. So if you're looking at it flat, in other words, if she were laying down on the back of her head, all the highest points would be hit. that's exactly where I went over with the bronzer to simulate a realistic bronze. And last but not least, I'll take basically a rose water toner, right? And I will lightly spray and let it mist. So what that does, it kind of reactivates, rejuvenates the skin, creating that, going back to skin feel, right? The texture of skin. So it locks in the bronzers, locks in the powders, but also brings back that finish of natural skin. And while it's drying, I will go ahead and use the same brush to press it all in. Okay, so it takes away that powdery finish and creates the illusion of a realistic bronzing. And there we have it. Linay, thank you for being my model. And what I did on her, just to recap, was I contoured lightly for her cheekbones. And lastly, I went ahead and used a bronzer and included the bronzer into the complexion to look much more realistic. So thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to watch our other videos on color theory, full looks, live, pretty much a lot of segments that we have previously recorded or what's to come. Thank you again. Thank you, Linay, for joining me today. And stay tuned. Look forward to seeing you guys again. Take care.